So, hey, most of you, I have recognized your faces or have met you before. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sarah Reinecke and coaching several people on this team, which has been an absolute delight. And I have said to all of these ladies how fortunate and lucky and blessed you are to be on this team. I see lots of other teams. I have a vantage point where I've been on other teams. What you have here is just really special. It's very positive. You focus on what's important. You stick together, and it's just awesome and something to really be proud of and something to protect. So just don't want you guys to ever forget that. So two things I was going to talk to you guys about tonight. And first of all, congratulations, 1,500. Like Sarah and I talked about that from the beginning. Like that's the mark that I feel like everyone should always want to hit, because if the sooner you can help your people and yourself get to that 1,500 mark, I mean, that's a good $500 paycheck, and people don't walk away from that typically. So the sooner, and I also think whenever you sign a new consultant, the sooner you can figure out their $500 why, the better as well. Because when you figure that out, it's not so much about that car payment. It's not so much about, well, I'd pay for preschool. It's more about like, well, what would that mean for your family? Well, it would mean that I'd be able to put more in savings. What would that mean for your family? Well, that would mean that my husband wouldn't have to work that second job. Okay, there we go. So what would it mean if your husband didn't have to work that second job? Well, that means we'd have more time together and we'd probably get along a whole lot better. Okay, what would that mean? Right? So, I mean, like you ask enough questions, that $500 can make a big impact in most everybody's life. It can keep people from a bankruptcy. It can save marriages. So never forget what you guys have in your pocket by offering this to people. That extra 500, and my first paycheck was $743, I think, to be exact. And truly this business saved me from bankruptcy. It saved me from losing my house. Right? So never forget the power that you've got in that $500 to $1,000 a month can make huge, huge impacts in people's families. So what I did want to talk to you guys today, a couple of things. First is branding. And I have a very strong opinion about this. And, opinions are like, you know what, you can take this for what it's worth. But something I have always heard when I used to meet people at convention, when I had that purple sparkly lanyard, was very fancy a couple of years. And I would see people at a Mexican restaurant or something like that at a convention, and they would want to talk to me. And I would always be like, I sold a lot of skincare, helped a lot of people. I'm not a movie star. I've just done it, and I didn't quit, and I kept doing it. And that's pretty much it. And they were always like, you're just so real. I hear the word real more than anything else. So I think a lot of times the word branding can be overwhelming. Have any of you felt overwhelmed with like, oh, I've got my brand and I've got to be perfect on Facebook and I've got to get the right pictures and I've got to put the right thing out there so people see it? Because there's a lot of information out there that will make you feel like you're not doing enough. If your pictures aren't perfect, if you don't have a professional photographer, then it's not enough. But your brand is simply when people see your name or they think about you, what do they think about? So Sarah Ashby was following me way before I was coaching her. So way before she knew me as a person, she could probably say a few things about me. So Sarah, pretend like I'm not coaching you. Like, what do you know about me just from looking at my social media?
I knew you were a football mom. I know that you like pink and red lipstick and big earrings. I know that you like coffee and like coffee shops like that. I know that you like to hang out with your friends.
Yeah. Just as an example, there's a few things that just by her following my social media, she knew those things about me. People know that I'm a football mom. They know I like wine and I like coffee. I like to shop local. I like to eat local. I like to cook. I battle with my health trying to, I really like to eat good stuff, but I also want to look good in my jeans. This is the battle of my life, right? Everybody knows this. So to me, that's your brand. What do people think about whenever they think about you? Right? So if people can name those things off, then you have branded yourself well. So make sure you don't fall into the trap of thinking in order to have a good brand that you have to have the perfect pictures and the photographer because to me, again, this is my opinion, and I don't know if you guys feel this way. When you see some of those people who have branded themselves well, To me, that's overwhelming. That would make me think as a prospect, I can't do that business because I can't afford a professional photographer. I'm never going to be able to get out there. I don't look that good in those pants. So I'm not going to be able to take those pictures. I can't afford blowouts, right? That's what you're telling your network by having a perfect brand and everything be uniform. You're going to get much farther in this business if you're real and you let people in, because ultimately people join you, not Rodan and Fields. And they want to join someone who's well-rounded and has other interests besides just Rodan and Fields. If all you're posting is Rodan and Fields, then your prospect's thinking, I don't want to do Rodan and Fields. I don't want to have to post before and afters all day, every day and bug my friends, right? You always have to take yourself out and think from the perspective of the prospect, the people that you're talking to about this business. So something that I hear a lot is that I have nothing to offer. Yes, you do. Everybody has things to offer. You might crochet. You might be great at making biscuits. You might be, you like to find hiking trails in your neck of the woods. You might be really great at curling your hair. You might be really good at makeup. Everybody has things that they like or they're good at or things that they can offer the world. They do, every one of you, I promise you. So I've learned a little trick a long time ago, in the branding matrix that helps me. And especially when I was with Rodan and Fields, I would make one of these every month. I would put in my calendar about the 27th each of the month to build it for the next month so I could be kind of prepared until it became routine in my head. So if you guys have pen and paper, I would love for you to do this with me. This is Mrs. Reinecke here. My chalkboard. So this is what branding matrix looks like. Okay. Put 3 circles at the top, like the size of $50, like this. And then put just for at least 5 or 6 circles going down like an XY matrix. You could go as far as 10 of these, and I would encourage you to make a new one when you're not doing this with me, but we're just going to make one together. So in these top 3 circles, here's the words that you're going to put in there. In the first circle, put educate. I'm just putting ed, but educate. And the second circle, put entertain. And the third circle, put empower. You could also call that one inspire if you want, but for 3E purposes, love alliteration. Educate, entertain, and empower. Okay? And then these circles down the side are things about you. So these will change from month to month. Some of them will always stay the same. Let's all put R and F in the first one. I would hope that that's part of your brand, right? So everybody, that's part of it, but not all of it. What are other things about you? So Sarah, we did this, so just using you as an example, what are some things about you? Let's throw one out there.
Jesus.
Jesus. She loves Jesus. I love
family.
I love books. I love wine. I love coffee. I love, depending on, like, one January I was doing CrossFit and Whole30. I'm not doing either anymore, but that month that made sense. I've been a basketball mom. I've been a softball mom, depending upon what's going on, right? So think about May. What are some other things that might pop into your mind? Just blurt some things out that are about you. Family. Mm-hmm. I also like
family, hiking, gardening, cooking,
fitness,
running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kathy and I talked about this. Like, she's got really, like, how to be a nana during quarantine, right? So that was one of her bubbles was being a nana. So she came up with some interesting ideas. People, like, if you add value, guys, I posted a picture of Unwich at Jimmy John's. Apparently it had been around for a long time. I didn't know. It was news to me. I drove through there and I ordered an Unwich and it was wrapped in lettuce. I'm like, this is amazing. Tasted great. And it's, 0 carbs. And I had like 50 comments below that. I had a girl come up to me at a ball game that was like, thank you for posting that. I had no idea. That adds value. It does. Whenever you put things like that out into the world, things that come very naturally to you don't to other people. Like gardening, right? Like maybe it's how to make a great margarita. Maybe it's, it's cooking. Maybe it's baking. There's all kinds of great things. This making sense? Right now, Tanya's got a competition coming up. That's a huge part of her brand right now. Maybe in 2 weeks. I know, scary, right? She's like through the Zoom. I'm safety between the Zoom, right? But it's going to change from month to month. So you might be a different sport going on in your family. Okay, so if I put mine down here just as an example, well, I'm going to put wine, coffee, books, and dogs, because I post about my dog named Kitty a lot. Okay, so here's our matrix. So how this works is, I'll give you an example of a perfect day in posting for me that I remember. I posted in the morning about getting a mammogram, and I just posted like with that V-neck, beautiful gown. I was like, check your tatas. It was my mammogram day. So did a little selfie about that. So that would be a health, educate. Okay, so then I would put a little X next to educate and health. Or I could put the date, maybe if I wanted to. That same day, I went and got blood drawn. And when I walked in, the lady said, oh, we need to get she's a fainter. We need to get the bed thing out. They remembered who I was. I was like, really? Am I like the only fainter? Like, really? And so I like posted a picture of a fainting sofa. And I was like, am I the only one that like passes out drawing blood? And so that was purely health entertainment. I was making fun of myself for being a fainter, right? Nothing else except for just entertainment. And then later that day was the first day I was doing CrossFit at the time, and I did my first box jump. Has anybody jumped on a box?
Yes, and I remember your post, by the way. That is a post of yours that I remember from a long time ago.
Yeah, I had like 2,000 views. I had my friend like videotape it in slow motion. It was not pretty. Like my fat was jiggling all the way up onto that box.
You know what? I don't remember that part at all. I remember being inspired to get my butt back at a box jump. Yep.
And I just said, if I'm gonna ask my team to step outside of their comfort zone, I should probably do the same. That was pretty much what that post said. So that was a RNF inspire, CrossFit inspire. I think I could get an X in both of those categories. I was kind of passively talking RNF. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So I posted all three of those things on the same day. And so Sarah was following me back in the day, and she wasn't annoyed. Like, God, did Sarah Reineke quit posting? Because they were very different things. I don't always post 3 times a day. That was just a day where it happened to where all 3 things. So it was 3 different categories. Does that make sense, guys? Mm-hmm. So if you're posting RNF before and afters, that would be RNF educate. And if that's all you're posting, then all of your X's are going to be under that same matrix. That makes sense. And that's whenever your brand is only RNF before and afters, and your world will shut you out because you're then annoying. If you're adding value in other ways, they won't shut you out. If you're doing this right, you should be able to ask in a group. And I did this over and over when I was doing trainings. Like, what do you know about me? Just like I asked Sarah, they would always say the same things. We know you're this, we know you're that, we know you're this, because they expected those things out of me. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm. So I really like this visual too.
And there's 2 ways to look at this. I would draw this thing out every month and think, what do I have going on? Am I a travel baseball mom this month? I mean, right now we're all just quarantine moms, I guess, but soon we'll be back to a life and have something. I post a lot about my Peloton. That's new in my life. And so I posted about that a lot. So there's 2 ways to look at this. You may be wired like me. If you're wired like me, which I wouldn't know as a compliment necessarily, but the way I have to look at this is I make this matrix, and this gives me ideas in my crazy brain to think about posting all month long. And then when I get inspired, when I think about these categories, then I post about it. If you ask my friend Kristen Korn how she does it, she looks at this and she plans her posts out all month long. That's the way her brain works. So no judgment. Honestly, it makes a whole lot more sense if you can think of it how she does. The way my mind works, I have to wait to be inspired before I start cranking these things out, which is not necessarily sane. So whichever way you think about it is totally fine. So you might make this matrix and say, okay, this week I'm going to post about dogs education. So may spay and neuter your dog post. And then I'm going to post about what book I'm reading next Tuesday. You can use this as a calendar to plan out your whole month.
And you said that we could make somewhere between 5 and 10 bubbles on the left.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you can redraw this to make more sense to you. Yeah, 5 to 10. RNF is always going to be there. Some of them will always be there. And I know Kathy posts about Stanley. Stanley's probably always going to be there, right? That's an important part of her life. So, but some of them will differ, some of them won't. And the things that stay the same, I mean, everybody knows I'm a football mom. They know I have a dog named Kitty. Everybody knows that because I've posted about Kitty a million times, right? That's okay. That stays consistent. So if you do this, then your network sees you as real. They see you as multifaceted, and they see that you aren't just obsessed with Rodan and Fields. Because if that's all you post, then that's not going to be attractive to your prospects. You guys have questions about it?
I really love it because it's a visual. And also for me, one of the things I think it would remind me to do is I could look down here and I could see the things that I've checked off. And I could see, oh, Sarah, you haven't posted anything about homeschooling in like 3 weeks. So maybe you should like throw something in there about that. And I think keeping one of these visually every month is a really great idea because you could make sure that you're hitting those things.
Yep. So you can either plan it out or you can set it down here and go, okay, I haven't posted about that. I think I'll do that today. And I haven't posted about wine this month. So maybe I'll like, what is one of my favorite? And I can post about that or what book I'm reading.
Yeah, I really love that. And also
Sarah,
for me, I consider myself, which is stupid, I shouldn't do this, but sometimes creativity like challenge, like I'm like, where is it? Flow. But if I have this thing to look at, then it could spark some creativity. And for that, it's helpful too. I
will also say, food for thought. Anytime I have ever been like, oh my God, did I just post that? Like this feeling of like, seriously, I am sweating. Every time I've done that, which honestly, that CrossFit post of jumping on the box, I mean, I felt chunky, I felt sweaty. I was like, Sarah Reinecke, who are you? But every time I've done that, it's the most engagement because, you know, what is the most personal is the most universal. It just is. So whenever you're having those, when you want to relate to people, you know, think about the people who you follow. It's the real things, right? The ones that act perfect all the time, you get sick of that. You want to know the real things going on. So don't be afraid to sprinkle those things in. There's been times where Sarah sent me a message like, should I post it? I'm like, it's awesome. Just press go, you know, just do it. And those are always the ones that get the most engagement. Almost every time.
Sarah, I remember you had challenged me to post something about books, ask a question. So I posted something asking, what are your favorite murder mysteries? Because I was looking for one. I love murder mysteries. I couldn't believe people came out of the woodwork to send me book ideas. People I barely knew.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it's amazing. I have asked a picture of Claire at Walmart with me, and we were deciding what filler to put in our meatloaf. You know, okay, tell me all the things. People were very passionate. Ritz crackers, saltine crackers, breadcrumbs. Like it was a debate, you know, all the way down the line. I knew what I was going to use. Or sometime I've held up a stinky sock. Like I've got a teenage boy, Lord help me. How do I get this stench out of these socks? People very passionate about their laundry that they're putting in there. And you also just want to keep it balanced. Like anytime I ever was all fancy and dressed up, like, you know, just went to France. You talk about fancy and dressed up, like, oh gosh. I knew that my network was like, oh, must be nice. Fancy for her. You know, you can tell what the thought is. So if I can sense that, if I posted too much on that end, then I will post a no makeup with a spray bottle, Windex in my hand, like what's your favorite cleaner? To remind them that I'm still cleaning my house, I'm still spraying my appliances down. You just take it off of you and think, what are other people seeing? Yeah. And it's a good idea. Just like I asked Sarah, ask a friend of yours, when you think about my social media, what do you know about me? Not your best friend, because that's cheating, but like ask somebody else what they can tell about you. And that'll be a pretty good litmus test about how balanced you are.
Does everybody on here have an idea of at least 5 bubbles to put down beside there, or any of you having any trouble?
Everybody has their things, right?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. When I was talking to Kathy, she's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I guarantee you do. She gardens, you know, Stanley, her Nana, you know, her grandkids. Like, yes. I mean, everybody has it. So it's a matter of like, what's natural to you. You think other people, it's natural to them. Heck no, it's not. Okay. So the second thing that I wanted to do with you, this is a really interesting exercise. So hopefully you guys have pen and paper. Sounds very much like Mrs. Reineke, but a T-chart. You guys know what a T-chart is?
You're going to tell us.
So, and on this side, I want you to write if nothing changes. If nothing changes. And on the right side, let's see, this is 2020. So put at the top 2023. And then say 5K a month. So that's terrible handwriting. If nothing changes, you could put 2020 above there if you want to. And on this side, 2023, and put 5K a month. And you could really make this 10K, you can make this 3K, like, you know, where you really want to be in 3 years, but 5K is a pretty good option. So first, I want you to really think about what your life looks like in 3 years. You know, for me, I would have a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, and a 20-year-old. Ouch. Okay. Yeah, think about that. Like, what does the life look like? Kind of picture it out and even like draw that out, like your kids' ages, how old you'll be. Write it out to the side on the 2023 side. And you can put the ages or what's going on this side for now. So think about your paycheck this month, which is coming minimum, if you all hit 1,500, minimum 500. So let's just assume it's at 500. So think about it now. If nothing changes, if this stays at 500, actually I did this wrong. It should be 2023 on both sides. If nothing changes in your paycheck, both sides are 2023. Sorry. Both sides 2023. So if nothing changes in your paycheck 3 years from now, what does that mean? And what does that look like? So some of these things might be personal that maybe you don't want to share out loud. It could mean if nothing changes, then my child is still going to public school, not private school. It could mean that I'm still behind on my car payment. It could mean can't afford Christmas presents the way I want to afford them, or still don't have a lake house, you know, those types of things. And then picture yourself 3 years from now with 5K a month. So make a little list on both sides of what that really looks like. Like picture the scene with your kids. So if I have a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old that's almost driving, that means I've got a kid in college and another car to deal with, right? That changes expenses. Just take a second and make a list of at least 5 things on both sides. And by the way, if you're at 5K a month and you're driving a Mercedes on the company's dime. That one's a given. And really you could make one more column of 10K if you wanted to, but we'll just talk with this one for today. share with me on something if nothing changes. Paycheck stays at 500.
So I'll share one that I came to when you had us write down the kids' ages. Our kids will be 22, 22, 18, 16, and 13. And the first thing that came to my mind, well, two things that go together were stressing about colleges, like paying for college and then also stressing about vehicles for them, because we would have at least 4 out of the 5 children driving a vehicle with all of those issues, and then 3 of them in college. And I honestly, that just thinking about that stress is so heavy. And making the change in the paycheck, that feels good. I don't want that kind of stress on me or them when we go into those years.
So if you're making $5K a month, what does that mean regarding that category?
That means that I get to let them really pick, that I don't have to bind their choices by dollars.
Yeah. Who else?
So mine is, if nothing changes, I'll get to retire in 2023. I'll have a 4 and a 3-year-old. I will have to find a job, continue working in the emergency room. I'll still have a hectic life. I'll still be trying to figure out how I'm going to do it all. And if I do make, more like probably 10K, but I'll be able to retire and I'll be able to work from home. I can have dinner made. I can have my house cleaned. I can travel, and I can let my husband do whatever he wants as far as his career.
Right. Taking the pressure off the hubby is a huge thing. I mean, that's a huge, huge blessing where, they're still going to want to do something, but to take the pressure off is amazing. You were smiling a whole lot more talking about column number 2. For sure.
It's just the little things in life.
Yeah.
Dinner, clean
Totally.
house.
I think one of the things that stressed me out a lot was braces and prom dresses. Like those 2 things, when I was a teacher, I'm like, how would I ever pay for braces? How would I ever pay for a prom dress? Like those 2 things, when I was like, what, you paid $500 for a prom dress? Like I was hearing these older teachers that were doing that. I thought, no way. Right? Who else?
For me, at some point, I'm probably going to have to be looking at a different car. And if nothing changes, then I would have to get a different car and I'd be back to car payments. And that's a little harder when you're retired and on more of a fixed income. And then if it's 4 to 5K a month, then it would be, I wouldn't be worrying about a car because I'd have a really nice one.
Right? Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Natasha, what about you? I'm calling yes. It's just like school. It's like a classroom. Calling people out.
I had a car down for me as well. Mine's been paid off for a couple of years now, and I plan on driving that thing into the ground, but I drive it a lot. So I'm like, in 3 years, God, I might have to do a car payment, but maybe not.
Right.
Won't. Maybe we'll transition to still not having a car payment. I also put that we would still be having the conversation about what I'm going to do for work in the future. And if I'm not, then there's no tension there. We can avoid that conversation. We can save more for college versus just stressing about, are we saving at all?
Yeah, totally. And when you think about it, like it's one or the other. You know what I mean? Like it's either A or B. There's the fork in the road, right? So in 3 years, you can be at one of the other. There's no middle ground, really. So this is where, like, in talking about Penny today and like doing the work it takes to get there, like this is why I was always very real in those conversations, sitting at the bar at a Mexican restaurant at the MGM. Like it's nothing special. I'm not a rock star. I'm not a rocket scientist. I just kept doing the work consistently over time. And that's all it takes, right? But you're either going to be in 2023 if nothing changes, or you're going to be 2023 with that 5K a month, which 3 years from now is way more than doable. completely, but you have to be completely bought into the idea that you're helping other people do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, over and over. And if you have that mentality about yourself, people can sense that. You know, if you're trying to recruit them and they feel like you're trying to get something from them instead of something for them, people can sense that, you know? So, you know, this is a really good practice. And in fact, I would encourage you to do this with your spouse, if you have a spouse, to really think about what life could look like on the other side, because the more support you have on that end, the better. And if you have a family, why? And if your kids are old enough, I would encourage you to even talk to them about some of these things, or make a T-chart with them as well, totally separate if your kids are old enough. You know, my kids understood payday. They understood, like, there they are arguing in the background. I need a door on this office. Somebody give me a door on my office. That's what I'm going to put on my chart. Door for office. But you can make one of these with your kids too, of what this can look like, because they have to sacrifice a little bit too for this business to work. They have to let you finish that phone call. They've got to let you go to that event, you know, miss something every now and then if you're going to convention. But if they understand there's something in it for them as well, that's okay. Communicate with them about this, with your spouse and with your family, whoever is involved. Your mom, if she's helping you babysit, help them see that there's something in it for all of them. But this is a really good thing to do, and have a nice version of it, and you keep somewhere where you can look at it often to remind you it's a fork, right? It's one or the other for 2023. And you got to pick based on the amount of effort you want to put into it, where you want to be. And judging by just a few of you sharing, you're smiling a whole lot more on the right side of that column.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty black and white. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also makes you think, like, in 3 years, if these things don't come to light, there's really only one reason why. And
Yeah.
it's going back to what you just said. It's, did you do the daily activity, or did you do it for 6 months and then you got tired and you stopped? That's
Yeah.
it.
Are you going to look back with regrets, or look back with, like, I gave it all I had? You know, and let me tell you this, and I'm a perfect example of this, like selling my business in December. No one says that you have to sprint forever. You know, Romy said that to me once, like, I'm not saying you got to keep this pace forever, but in my opinion, I was like, I want to rip this Band-Aid off as fast as I can, as opposed to dragging this thing out as long as as long as I can. Does that make sense? So, like, you know, your pace is up to you. But you don't have to sprint like that forever. You know, sprint for a while, like give it all you've got for a while, and then you can relax a little bit, you know, once you get to a certain point, if you want to do that, you know, but don't think it's forever.
No.
You guys have any questions?
No, that's good.
It's thought provoking, right? When you think about it's one or the other.
Yeah.
And when you think about what your kids will be, you're like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who do have little kids in the house, one of the things that we did leading up to that year that we took everybody to Disney was everybody knew what I was working for. They knew my first year in business, everybody knew what I was working for. They knew that I was working to come home. And so the kids were super supportive. Noah used to go to corporate events with me. Like, everybody was in on that. And then the second year, it was the year that we were saving to go to Disney. And so they were, I mean, they still cause a ruckus sometimes, of course, but they were much more supportive when I was on the phone, or go away because I have a call, or, you know, just whatever. It was a lot more fun for me too, to have everybody involved in that. So you should totally do something like that.
I love that idea.
It was,
We always say, save money for this, or so you can dance, but like something tangible that, like,
yeah, it was fun. And we have a place here, it's called Becca, you know, Mountain Goat Market. For a really long time on payday, I would take all the kids that were at the house, and we would go to Mountain Goat Market, and they would all get to pick out things. Like, they have treats there and all sorts of stuff, and we would do that like every payday. So I really like doing stuff like that, because getting the husband's buy-in or getting the kids buy-in, it just makes everything so much more smooth. You know, when you've really got to put your head down and you've got some work to do.
Yep. So I would just encourage you not to waste the time. Don't waste these 3 years. Give it all you've got. You can't regret it. There's no way you can. You know, you don't want to look back and regret this. You've got it right in here in your hands. And I will say, you guys have awesome momentum. got awesome leadership. It's positive. You guys ride this wave like crazy and get after it because there's no time wasting it. I'm just super proud to be working with all of you. So.
We're thrilled you're here.
We are.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Sarah.
Thank
Guys,
you.
I'm gonna take a break and then I'll pop back on here at 7 o'clock for a meetup Monday for everybody that's coming back. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.